Corrie McKeague was filmed walking into a narrow service yard in Bury St Edmunds, England, at 3:25 in the morning on the 24th of September 2016. But no camera ever recorded him walking back out. He was a 23-year-old Royal Air Force gunner, completely alone. That was the last camera ever to see him. This is one of 3 disappearances we will follow, each captured clearly on film, each one still unexplained. Corrie had spent the night out with friends. By 3:25, he was alone, filmed by camera after camera, until he stepped into a dead-end yard the locals called the Horseshoe. The Horseshoe was a loading yard behind the shops, its only entrance covered by CCTV. Corrie walked in at 3:25. The footage from that entrance never showed him again. What made the case so strange was the coverage. That corner of Bury St Edmunds sat inside a ring of cameras so complete that police could track almost every step Corrie took that night. Then, in the one yard with no exit but the way he came, he was gone. 2 days later, once he'd been reported missing, investigators had traced his phone. The data placed it leaving Bury St Edmunds along a path that matched, almost turn for turn, the early morning round of a commercial bin lorry heading north toward Cambridge. Inside the Horseshoe stood a large industrial waste bin. Detectives came to believe Corrie, drunk and exhausted, may have climbed inside to sleep, and that before dawn, a lorry lifted that bin, crushed its contents, and drove them away. The bin from that yard had been logged as weighing 11 kilograms. Months later, the waste company revised that figure. The real weight was 116 kilograms, heavy enough, police said, to have carried a grown man. The search moved to a landfill at Milton, near Cambridge. For 20 weeks, teams in protective suits sifted more than 6,000 tons of rotting waste by hand, bag by bag. They found nothing that belonged to Corrie. While the search dragged on, his girlfriend April Oliver gave birth to their daughter. Corrie had never known she was pregnant. His mother, Nicola, refused the landfill theory outright and fought to have the ground searched again. In 2022, an inquest reached its conclusion. Corrie had most likely died when the bin was emptied, but his body was never recovered, and without it, the finding rests entirely on a phone signal and a corrected weight. The landfill search became one of the most expensive in British police history. Called off, restarted after public pressure, and called off again. No arrest was ever made because there was never a crime scene to work from, so Britain is left with a man who walked into a yard on camera and simply stopped existing on film. 4,000 miles away, on the Canadian prairies, another set of cameras was about to do the very same thing to a 16-year-old girl. On the morning of April 12, 2016, a grandmother dropped 16-year-old Mekayla Bali at Sacred Heart High School in Yorkton, Saskatchewan. Mekayla walked inside, stayed about 10 minutes, and walked back out. She would spend the rest of that day on camera and then disappear. Over the next few hours, town CCTV and witnesses tracked her across Yorkton. She walked into a shop called Terry's Pawn and Bargain and tried to sell a silver ring. The shop turned her down. What unsettled investigators was how deliberate it all looked. Mekayla had left school on her own, was carrying items to sell, and appeared, from what police could piece together, to be preparing to travel somewhere she never named to anyone. From the pawn shop, she was filmed at a TD Bank, then at a Tim Hortons on Broadway. She seemed to be gathering money, moving with purpose, never hurrying, and never once looking afraid. Just before noon, she returned to Sacred Heart High School, stayed only minutes, and left again. By 12:15, she was inside the STC bus depot building, buying a meal at the Trail Stop restaurant. A witness later told police they saw Mekayla leave the Trail Stop with a man. He was stocky and dark-haired, with a large tattoo of a fiery cross burned across his forearm. Investigators pulled the depot's records and interviewed the staff. Mekayla had been booked to travel, but she never boarded a bus. Sometime between 1 and 1:45 that afternoon, she walked out of the depot and off every camera in Yorkton. That 1:45 window is still her last confirmed location. No CCTV, no bank card, no phone signal has ever placed her anywhere afterward. The man with the fiery cross tattoo was never identified. In May 2017, the US National Center for Missing and Exploited Children suggested she may have traveled towards Seattle or Portland and could try to cross the American border. It was a theory, not a sighting. The reward for information climbed to $100,000 after an anonymous donor added $60,000 around the 6th anniversary. The RCMP have chased more than 1,000 tips. Her family has marked every anniversary with fresh appeals, convinced the answer sits somewhere inside that final, unfilmed hour. 10 years on, there is no body, no arrest, and no confirmed destination. Only a teenage girl who spent an entire day in front of cameras, then stepped out of frame forever. A continent south, in Illinois, a graduate student was about to walk out of one more store and become just as impossible to trace. On the morning of August 24, 2021, a surveillance camera inside a Bloomington, Illinois dispensary recorded Jelani Day walking the aisles, making a purchase, and driving away in his white Chrysler. It is the last moment anyone can prove he was alive. Jelani J.J. Day was 25, a first-semester graduate student at Illinois State University, studying to become a speech pathologist. His family had last spoken to him the evening before. When he missed days of class and stopped answering calls, they reported him missing on August 25th. Put the days together, and the timeline is short and jagged. Last contact with family on the 23rd. Last seen on camera the morning of the 24th. Reported missing the 25th. And on the 26th, his car turned up abandoned. His white Chrysler 300 was found in a wooded area near the Illinois Valley YMCA in Peru, Illinois, roughly an hour north of where he lived. It had been driven off a parking lot and into the trees. Peru police found the way the car was left deeply strange. It sat in a spot with no reason for Jelani to be there, and no clear sign of how he had reached it. Search teams combed the woods and the water. On September 4th, 11 days after that last camera frame, a body was recovered from the Illinois River in Peru. On September 23rd, the LaSalle County coroner confirmed it. Through dental records and DNA, the body pulled from the river was Jelani Day. The cause of death was drowning. The manner of death, homicide, suicide, or accident, was left undetermined. His mother, Carmen Bolden Day, rejected any suggestion her son had taken his own life. She has said, publicly and repeatedly, that she believes Jelani was the victim of foul play. The problem is the gap. No one has ever established where Jelani went, or what happened to him between driving away from that Bloomington dispensary and ending up in a river an hour to the north. Peru police called the disappearance a case of unexplained, suspicious circumstances. Bloomington, Peru, and the LaSalle County Sheriff all worked it, and by the 2-year mark, the case was still open, a $10,000 reward still standing. How the car came to rest in those trees, an hour from the last footage of him, no authority has ever explained. 3 working cameras, 3 people gone, and the same silence where an answer should be. 3 people walked in front of cameras that were working perfectly, and all 3 vanished anyway. Jelani Day's manner of death is, to this day, officially undetermined. His mother still calls it foul play, and no one has ever explained how his car came to rest in those woods, an hour from the last frame that ever held him.